Somehow the world will change for me.
Make me be so wonderful.
Hello, everyone. Yes. Welcome to the Jump Inside podcast. And let's just introduce everyone before we get started. So just let you know, you already know most of them if you've been here for a while. We've got Camazoid, we've got Howard, Blue Fox, and we've got Jay. And it's going to be such a good podcast. We're doing horror games. I said your name. And let's get started. I'm going to pick on Jay first. So, Jay, how's your channel? How are your videos going?
We have entered hour 100 into editing the Call of Duty timeline. And I have learned more about the My Lai massacre and conventions for conventional weapons than I ever hoped to. But it's going great, and I've written some reviews to do once I've finished this massive project. So yeah, it's going great.
I think the question we're all wondering is, at what point are we going to be able to watch this? When do you think the release plan date is? We want to book tickets for the cinema.
Yeah, I want to pre-order this, man.
I will announce when it is coming out when I've finished it, because the upload time might take a week. So I will announce it to everybody in our lovely little Discord, and I will announce it all over my Twitter and everything as well. So yeah, I will make it very apparent. Don't you worry.
Are we talking red carpet event, sparkling wine, and everything like that? Is that all going ahead? I'm loving this. Right, okay, moving on. Howard, what are you working on? Tell me about your channel.
Things are going good. I have now 129 subscribers, so things are going well.
You is counting, aren't you?
Well, yeah, just keep in track of your statistics.
Sigma grind set and all that.
What is the algorithm saying?
The algorithm is saying that I need a new editor, and I've been saying that too. But it's cool because I've found a new one, so hopefully we'll be able to get some more videos out, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I've been planning to do some...
Applications are closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, and next we will talk to Blue Fox.
Well,
tell us about your channel.
Hello to everyone, it's Blue Fox once more, and my channel is going okay. I recently made a video about the First World War representing video games that did pretty well. And it's I'm close to 270, so I can't complain. And I'm looking forward for this podcast, as always.
Yeah, did you put Call of Duty World at War in that video?
I said the First World War.
And Camazoid in the chat. Camazoid, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, they saved the best for last, as they say. As you all know me, I am Camazoid from Camazoid Gaming, the only person who loves and plays Elden Ring from these guys who are still too weak to step into this game. But anyway, I am here and ready to talk about horror games, a genre that I have left and didn't play a lot. But this year's looking to be making a comeback, because there are a lot of great horror games.
Yeah. Yes, we've got some good horror games in this chat this evening. But first, going straight to Camazoid, because I know your games that you've got on your channel are quite dark, so I'm expecting good things from you this episode.
Yes.
As we go for it, let's what game are you bringing along? I think I know it. I think it's Resident Evil, but I could be wrong.
No. Well, you are close. It is Resident Evil, but specifically is Resident Evil 4, the most iconic horror game released back in 2005. Yeah, and in every system, literally, this game was released in every single system. Even now, it's been released in VR, and I think it's the best experience right there. Can disagree. And what makes the Resident Evil 4 iconic is the way it changed the formula of the horror genre. The Resident Evil gameplay style focuses on both action and horror, but putting more emphasis on horror, specifically on the first two major locations of the Resident Evil 4, which are the village and the castle. And the final location is the military base, which I think focuses much more on action rather than horror. Resident Evil 4, I think, is also known for many iconic characters that, if you guys played the game, or if any of you listening here played the game, probably know, like your good old friend Chainsaw Man, who literally kills you with one hit by cutting off your head. Can't wait to see that again in 4K HD with the Resident Evil 4 remake. Oh yeah, this game's getting a remake. But anyway, continuing on with the other characters that I have, we got also The Undertaker. Yes, I mean Big Cheese.
Wait, the Undertaker?
Hell yeah, they got a
No,
dead
not
man
that
who's literally
Undertaker.
chasing you.
No, you could hit tombstone pile drivers in there.
No,
No.
my friend, you do. And
He
my
on
favorite,
Freddy with a steel chair.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well,
He's
moving-
broken in half.
moving, boys, we're talking about horror here, not wrestling. We'll save that for the sports episode if we're gonna have one. But anyway, going back to some of the iconic characters of Resident Evil. Speaking about the short man, which is I'm probably gonna mispronounce his name, Ramon Salazar, I think. Or call him ramen salad. Just
Ramen
go with
noodles.
anything that comes to your mind. Whatever, yeah. The Knife Master Krauser, my favorite boss, who is also pretty easy. And the final one, I forgot his name. But anyway, moving on. And let's not forget the legend himself, probably everybody's favorite friend who played Resident Evil 4. I know some of you did, and whoever didn't play Resident Evil 4, you're probably missing out, or you probably wasn't even born until when that game came out. But anyway, yeah, your favorite friend, yes, the stranger who is literally a walking gunsmith. This game is just so beautiful, with so many scary moments. Like, for example, one of my favorite moments while playing Resident Evil 4 was fighting the Garador, I think. Yeah, the guy who literally doesn't see you, but only works with sound, I think. So you gotta use the environment in order to defeat this guy. Because if you make any sudden sound, he literally walks towards you and tries to literally murder you. Well, let's just say he kills you with 2 or 3 hits. I forgot. It's been a while since I played that game. But anyway, yeah. So you have to strategize in order to beat him and land some good hits. Also, what I love, something that Resident Evil 4 did very, very well, was the QuickTime events. Making them come out of literally nowhere, gets your blood pumping, and they are very well executed compared to so many other games that I don't know, but played. I have a problem with memory, but anyway. The reason why I chose this game, well, 2 reasons why I'm talking about Resident Evil 4. It's one of the best games ever made and one of the best horror games. And also, I'm pretty sure everybody knows this. And if you didn't know, what are you doing? Resident Evil 4 is getting a remake, a fully fledged remake that looks insane. 2 days ago, Capcom managed to release a new trailer, well, specifically speaking 2, which is a gameplay trailer and a story trailer, and this game looks absolutely phenomenal. I feel like they're going to pay tribute to the original game, and I think Capcom is doing a smart strategy by actually doing the same thing that Square Enix did with Final Fantasy VII, which is making you play Resident Evil 4, but it's completely different. I hope, knowing this, I really hope that they put even more emphasis on the horror and less on the action, because Resident Evil 4, it's already like an action shooter game. I don't want it to be like Resident Evil 8 or let's not talk about Resident Evil 5 or 6. But yeah, if we're talking about horror, we gotta mention the best one of them all, which is Resident Evil 4. And if you haven't played it, what are you doing? The Resident Evil 4, before the remake, was literally released on every single system. I played this game on the PS2, PS3, PC, PS4, and the Wii. And my best experience was the Wii, believe it or not. So yeah, that's all I have for my horror taste, because I like to shoot zombies and try not to die.
Your best experience was the Wii version?
Yeah.
I'd be using tilt controls.
Okay, you're probably gonna not very much get along with me right now, and our friendship's gonna completely break. But my Resident Evil that I got into was Resident Evil 5. That was my first proper get into Resident Evil. So I didn't actually play Resident Evil 4. That was a bit. So I kind of missed around that. But seeing this now having another remake, it's obviously going to be like a really cool thing getting into, and
yeah, it's a great opportunity for the people who missed out to actually get into it, because Resident Evil 4 it's a very iconic game.
Because one thing about Resident Evil, which I generally do love, kind of how they offer it, Resident Evil isn't just like one type of zombie game. They keep mixing it up. They add new things. They don't just keep things all the same. There's a lot of different aspects to it. If you play Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil to the latest one out, which is I'm not quite sure. I think we're up to Resident Evil 8 something. Yeah. You play those types of Resident Evil. You play all of them. You're gonna get a different taste of what each one offers, and the stories get more and more and more insane as you go along. Side story, which is nothing to do with it, but only slightly. I rented Resident Evil 2 when it got released, and that was all the way back in the Blockbuster days when Blockbusters was everywhere. And I played it so much, and then at some point I played a different game as soon as I did as much as I could on that game, and I realized I had to take the disc back because I was late on taking the disc back. So I found the game case, which was great, and then I completely lost the game, and I found it back years later. I accidentally had it on a shelf, and I was able to keep Resident Evil and to get away with taking it from Blockbusters, and then that's when Blockbusters slowly started to end. So yeah, I may have caused that. Moving on. Before we move on, what part of I'm going to say this quite a lot this podcast. What type of horror should someone expect when they play Resident Evil 4 or any Resident Evil for that matter?
Yeah, I would agree a little bit with Elwood. They are your typical. They are, let's say, specific zombies. You got your villager zombies, and then some priest zombies and military zombies. They're not. What makes the most terrifying moments in Resident Evil 4 was fighting different kinds of enemies. Specifically, the enemy that I mentioned, the Garador. I think if I pronounced his name right. What makes this guy actually a bit terrifying is the space where you fight him. It's very small, and it's this guy tries to locate you by listening to you. If you make any sudden sound, he literally walks straight towards you. So you have to beat him without making sound or using the environment in order to strategize against him and win. Plus, there are some other enemies and some bosses as well that are clearly terrifying, and the atmosphere around them is a bit scary. I would say for anybody who's stepping into Resident Evil 4, expect to be surprised by many things and terrified by some creatures. So yeah, that might give you a bit of a hard time, but also expect to really enjoy yourself.
May I ask you, Amisoid, we know that Resident Evil 7 and 8 have taken a different approach to the genre of Resident Evil in general. They've transformed the game from a third person to a first person, and they've made it kind of more claustrophobic rather than explorative as the Resident Evil 4 and the other games. What is your take on that?
Well, I do think, to be completely honest, I haven't played Resident Evil 8 yet. But I do say that it depends on what you like. For example, for me, I prefer more the third-person perspective, like Resident Evil, the Resident Evil 2 remake or Resident Evil 4. For me, I prefer it that way better than the first person, even though the first person perspective makes it much more immersive. So, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna reroute this because like Resident Evil is known as a zombie game. And I'm just gonna go to the next person who's brought along a game. And considering that it's also a zombie game, as well as I'm aware of, ZombiU. How does that compare to Resident Evil?
Yeah, ZombiU is the game that I brought for today's podcast. So ZombiU is a game developed by Use of Montpellier, and it was released for the Wii U in 2012, and it was re-released for the PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on 2015. And well, as I've introduced, is a first-person rather than a third-person zombie apocalypse adventure, and it takes place in London, and it's fairly well remade. You play mostly in the underground, and you connect to main locations, just Buckingham Palace and the Tower of London. And the interesting thing of the game is that there is the permadeath mechanic. So when your protagonist dies, it becomes a zombie, and you are reborn with a new protagonist. You need to restart the whole game. There is a mode for that. That's the hard mode, that you have to restart the whole game from scratch. But in the normal mode, you just respawn with a different person that just has the knowledge of the previous one, and you have to kill yourself, the zombie that became that the player became, to collect your things. The very interesting mechanic of the ZombiU specifically is that since it was released for the Wii U, you had your backpack on the gamepad. So when you had to manage your backpack, the character would crouch, and you would see the screen on the little controller from the Wii U, but the game would still be running. So then, if there would be a zombie behind you, they would attack you, making the experience of a survival game much more apparent. So the game itself is not too long; it's about 15 hours. It was appreciated by the media. When it was first released, it was one of the titles, the launch titles for the Wii U, so many people had it by default. Well, maybe it has aged a bit, and the PC, PS4, and Xbox One version of the game do not have this gamepad mechanic, so the game itself is a bit less enjoyable for that. However, I would say that it's still a lovely experience, and if you have the possibility to catch it up and to try it out, I would heavily suggest you to play ZombiU.
Okay, that's a very interesting title.
I was gonna say, and interestingly, and just like one of the things that I've kind of got to grips on about a lot of these, well, from the comparison, I had it in my head just then going, wouldn't it be cool if you had like a real life kind of like zombie type feature game of characters that say you had like a leader of a like an area, and you had like 250 survivors, and your job is to like survive as long as possible. That would be a very interesting concept of a game. What would you say then? Would you say, what is the scary portion of that game, would you say, for people who jump onto that game? What would you say the scariest part? Or is it so much scary, or is it more in the horror section of...
Well, what is frightening of ZombiU is that, of course, you have the permadeath mechanic, meaning that you cannot risk yourself to die, because you can't just explore an area and say, okay, well, I'll just go in gun blazing, and if nothing happens, I'll just respawn like nothing happens. No, if you die, you really die, which is quite, less than ideal for the player. Also because, as you mentioned at your pitch, is that in the ZombiU game, you do actually have more points if you finish your game with, having lived the longest. Meaning that if you are able to finish the game from start to end without dying, you will get, the highest score possible. And this is an interesting mechanic because it makes the scary parts even scarier, because you are always on the nose. You're always watching out for zombies. You're always watching out for surprises. But there's going to be corridors where you don't expect surprises, and, there you have a very buff enemy that is trying to kill you. So I would say that the atmosphere of the game is really enhanced with the permadeath mechanic in this regard. But if you mention a specific place that is scary in the game, it's been a while. I would say that the school, the elementary school, it's quite spooky as a place. Of course, as a horror game, it is always the scariest place to be. And I would say that the initial part of the game is a bit scarier than the last, because in the first part you only have a cricket bat as your weapon, so you're pretty much useless. But then in the later part of the game you do have weapons. Of course you only have scarce ammunition, so you can't just kill all the zombies with rifles and desert eagles. Also because zombies are receptive to sounds, so if you use a grenade, then zombies will hear you. So you are incentivized to kill them slowly with the cricket bat. But then later in the game, when you get to Buckingham Palace, I would say that it gets a bit less freaky. Also because you're already familiar with the zone and with the area, so you're more used to it, I would say.
And I wanted to ask, how do the game mechanics change if you die? Do you turn to a zombie, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you die, the player who died becomes a zombie, and you respawn as a new player. So basically, you say that you are, you're person A that dies, and then you respawn with person B, and you have to go to person A, which is now a zombie. You have to kill him or her, and then you have to open his or her backpack to get your stuff. Which sometimes you may have died, in a place that is not very active with zombies, and some other times you may die in the middle of a zombie gathering, meaning that this, collecting your stuff back is not always as easy as as explained.
Yeah.
You don't play as a zombie. Maybe I should make that very clear.
All right.
There is the co-op mode, which is very interesting. The co-op mode, the local multiplayer mode, where one person is playing on the screen with a normal controller, which is the survivor, and another person is spawning in zombies with the gamepad. And it's not scary, it's just a lot of fun, and I really had a blast playing with my good old friends in the evenings in the local multiplayer.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard much about that game. I heard about it a little bit around the Wii U, like whenever that was popular. And
Never.
Never. Yeah, they probably should have put that on the Switch. Then it would probably get more popular.
But again, it's the game is not enjoyed without the gamepad. So the game is in PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, so it is available in other consoles apart from the Wii U. But I think the gamepad of the Wii U enhances experience quite substantially. So it's a bit of a, it's good that the game is still alive in other consoles, but it kind of defeats the purpose. So it's just a regular, horror game, which is fine, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah, it's when something has a very unique point that is built from it starting on a certain system that once that's lost, you really do lose a lot of the way that the game works. I mean, not exactly the same, but similar to when they ported across the Pokemon games from the DS to the Switch, and it loses some of the fun features that you had at that point.
But more than the fun features, is also the gameplay structure itself. It's like bringing a VR game into normal, PC game. It defeats the purpose of the VR, because in VR you can do things that you cannot do in a normal PC game. In a normal PC game, you can do things that you cannot do in VR. So just bringing one game to one platform to the other sometimes can break the core concept of the game itself. And I believe this to be the case of ZombiU in PC version.
Oh yeah, when it's built with that in mind, that's that's what I was meaning, was like it's built around a certain set of features and capabilities, and that can sometimes absolutely undermine the design principle once you've moved it to something that doesn't have that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So if you have the chance to play ZombiU in its original form for the all 9 people who still have a Wii U, then I would suggest you to try it out. Otherwise, you can try out the PC version for if you find the game for $5, still worth it, but not as much.
Who are the other 8 people with a Wii U?
If you're
God
one
knows.
of them,
I'm one of them,
I have
that's
one,
for sure.
And then I gave it to my cousin.
Wow,
Yeah.
so we've only got to find 6 more. There's you and me, and then there's
I must
the
have
other
really
6.
hated my cousin.
Do we have to all buy a Wii U now for our next podcast?
Yeah, do it. Then we can play Mario Party.
Hello, good afternoon.
And ZombiU, of course.
Mario Party Kart Wars.
Is that going to be our next episode? Mario Karts or anything to do with
Mario,
Party games.
Nintendo?
The fat
We know
Italian
one.
drummer.
I think it
with
should be our
Chris
most.
Pratt.
I think it should be our most cancelable takes on Mario Kart. That should be our next episode.
Yoshi shouldn't be driving.
Gotta keep in mind that this is a horror-themed episode rather than a Mario episode.
very true,
Yeah,
that's
we can
very
do that later.
I had this idea. I had this thing going on in my head while you were talking about that, and I was like, thinking, I have some concepts. Okay, wow, what would a game be like if it was a big multiplayer, 100 people inside a zone, and when you kill someone, they turn into a zombie, and they keep coming back as a zombie, that would be like, because you any Fortnite need to do a you die but you don't die need to come back as a zombie type of game. That would be an interesting concept. It wouldn't be scary, but it'd be interesting.
I think Warzone has that, actually. I think I played that the other day.
Okay,
the
there you go.
turn
Fortnite
the
fans
game
switch to
to
Warzone for a tat.
Yeah. You're pitching games, but unfortunately they already exist.
They already exist.
Well, Warzone's gonna be dead anyways, so
Oh, yeah.
You know, Slap, you're
Moving-
pitching games, but what are the games that you brought for today's podcast?
well.
Oh, me?
yeah.
Oh, I'm going last. There are a few types of horror games, or there are a few types of things that come in the horror genre, and there is there's horror, there's apocalypse, there's gore, and one of my favorite ones is creepy. And I've looked at some pictures of a game called Layers of Fear, and everything, all the pictures, not scary and such, just really creepy. So, Jay, I'm leading that right into you right now.
You are.
Layers of Fear.
Wow, what a seamless transition.
Exactly.
Tell us about Layers of Fear.
Yeah, I'm going to chat about two very different games as I go through this. Almost as a comparative, with Layers of Fear, which obviously you were chatting about, and it's a very different type of horror. And then Murder House, made by Puppet Combo, which is slightly smaller budget, but honestly worth it and an incredible experience. So I'll start off with Layers of Fear. Layers of Fear is a fantastic little experience. I would say the first one is better than the second, because in the first one there isn't really like a worry that you're gonna be killed and stopped and reset. In a way, there's like a little bit of platforming that's like the only bit of like fail state, but the rest of it is you walk around this painter's house as you start to unravel the fact that he's clearly done some pretty appalling things to sustain his art, and he's gone a bit mad. He's ruined the life of his child, and may or may not have been a good part of the reason that his wife is dead. And honestly, it's an incredibly dark experience, but it's kind of like if you take the walking simulator and take it to its darkest possible angle, that's what you've got. And you know, if you're somebody like me and you hate rats, believe me, it's gonna mess with you, but it's not as bad as a Plague Tale of either of them, because you at least get to have some gaps from the rats, and it usually builds you up to when it's going to happen, and they're not really like too terrifying. But yeah, I would recommend that. Plus, it's got one of my favorite paintings of all time, and that's the baby with a beard. If anybody's played that game and they've seen the baby with a beard, I need to know where I can get a print of that and put it up in my house, but nobody can tell my wife that I've done it, because I want to put it up as a surprise, and because I love it. She thinks it's the worst thing she's ever seen. But on to my second game. It's Murder House. Now, Murder House is a massive homage to the PS1 and PS2 eras of stuff like Silent Hill and everything, where you go as a camera crew. You've basically broken into the house of the Easter slasher, and honestly, it is incredible. The tension that it builds up, the fact that you like everything you do unlocks another thing, that the moment it's one of those games that you're able to unlock another door, And instead of going, cool, I can continue the adventure, you go, oh no, that means there's more of this. and you just keep going. But it is so utterly frightening, because it builds up this tension, but with the tank controls that play very similarly to a PS1 controller, that you don't feel as precise as you'd like to, and you start to, with the angles changing of the camera, you just feel so disorientated, which adds to just this constant terror that you're feeling. And honestly, it was amazing for me to play. I haven't finished it, but I played about 2 hours and had to stop because I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It was so good. I was nearly damaging my own body playing it. So yeah, if you really want to scare yourself, play that game.
Dang, that sounds terrifying.
Oh, sounds so interesting.
It sounds like the scariest game we've heard in this podcast so far.
The scariest thing I've heard so far is Baby with a Beard.
Oh, yeah, well, you stole it from me, man. I don't know why you were doing that, but all right.
Well,
I have got Chuck E. Cheese animatronics.
Oh, the classic.
We're gonna put you on hold. We're gonna put you on hold just for a second because I'm excited for that game. But just on the hold, just for a moment, all right? I do want to ask Jay a question before we continue. I had it. No, I had it and I lost it.
Well, I'll give a little bit extra explanation. To me, I don't know if anybody else had this. I wasn't given a lot of scary games as a kid. I think. Well, I didn't have a lot of games to begin with, really, especially in like the PS1 era. I was mainly there was a guy at the church I went to with my mum and dad who gave me a giant pile of PS2 games and PS1 games, and I played a bunch of them, and I never really properly experienced something scary, but the graphics for Murder House puts me back to being a kid, and this feeling of staying up late, playing on my PS1 where I know that everybody else has gone to bed and I can't make a noise because then it tells everybody I'm still awake, and it's so palpably terrifying when you have this immediate want to stay quiet while also being terrified. It's incredible. Honestly, it's, at least to me, had this almost teleport me back to childhood experience as well. So
the good old days,
yeah. Like you've done this,
the
but
good old days.
Got my question I wanted to ask. When you play these games, and I feel like you've tried this, does it have an effect on sound levels and whether you're sitting in a dark room, on what time of day you're playing it, like those type of things? Do they make an addition to the horror of the game itself? Because sometimes I'll play a game and it's horror and I'll be like, okay, I need to take my headphones out for this next part because I know it's gonna jump scare me half to death.
For me, I end up kind of weirdly, because of the type of person I am and the fact that when I started off Amadeus, I did a lot of Let's Play stuff. I end up kind of going into that almost Let's Playery, like let's make jokes as we go mindset as I begin. At least for like certain games, like when I first played Layers of Fear, I tried to make just a load of jokes as I went while my wife sat in the room. Just and that breaks up some of the fear, but as I've tried reviewing things and kind of allowing myself to not be kind of constantly performative, even in just my own house, the quiet and letting the atmosphere and the immersion grip you is so good, but it's so terrifying. It allows you to kind of really resonate with it. I mean, I finished Soma earlier today, and the sound and the the lighting, and just for me, it's if it can be a world that feels kind of on edge and something's not right, and when you kind of have that constantly feeding back to you, that's when it's good. Like slower, kind of slightly more psychological horror is good for me. Jump scares just constantly, not really with it. I mean, I tried Amnesia and I'll probably try it again, but I've dropped it a couple of times because it has jump scares, but it doesn't have that kind of long-lasting creeping horror. Like Alien Isolation is so good because you go, it can be literally anywhere. Like it knows kind of where I am, and I've got to be very, very clever with the way I play this game, and I like that. The building of suspense for me is more terrifying than the jump at the end. So yeah, if somebody's marketing to me, build tension as long as possible. It will make me destroy my own mind trying to figure out what's around each corner.
Oh. Yeah, no, I hate that last bit when corners. I hate going around corners in horror games. I hate going around corners in general. I watched bringing it from one step to another. I watched The Poltergeist when I was really young, and ever since then, I was always scared to go downstairs in the pitch black. Can't do that. I'm nearly, who knows? I'm old now. I'm old and stuff, and I don't get scared of going down. Well, I don't get scared of. I'd like to say I don't get scared of ghosts going down. Seb is forgetful. Yes, he is. I don't get scared of going downstairs much as the fear of ghosts, but it's still, there's a little bit there that I will run the heck back upstairs if I feel like there's something following me, even if there isn't. I'm still that minded.
I get that as well, but it wasn't from like Poltergeist or anything that makes sense. For me, it was Rugrats Search for Reptar on the PS1. On the level, you have to go down to the fridge because it has a light, and you have to try and kill the ghosts with your torch. And I don't know, for some reason, as a kid, that affected me to such a degree.
So are we adding Rugrats game made for kids into this mix of horror games? Is
this
yes?
Okay, so I brought SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom.
You see,
I don't think
would probably
that's
find a way for that to be terrifying.
No.
You're underwater. You're suffocating constantly.
Yeah, the sponge could eat Patrick.
Oh, okay. Moving on. Moving on from
they're all born by
creepy
nukes.
painter games that has strangely hooked me now that I actually want to give that a go before the end of next week. But moving on to something a bit more jump scary. But before I do that, I do want to mention that the reason we do these podcasts, or probably the major part that I really get excited for these podcasts, I'm always at the start of the month going, what can we do a podcast about? And I'm like, okay, let's do that game. And I feel like, there's only one game in that genre. And when we do these podcasts, we do realize all to ourselves that there are so many pieces of that genre in that genre. So for example, like I just thought my games are going to be the main games that everyone's going to think of, and we've got like 6 or 7 different games already before we move into this next one that are just different types of games that people just like love, and there's so many options out there, and this is why I just love making these podcasts, because it gives me a discovery of not just I'm enjoying myself in these podcasts, but I think that there are so many games out there that I just haven't even stepped into that everyone brings along to this. So moving on to the next piece, Alwood, you've got a game that I'm really excited that you're bringing along, because for me this is jump scary. But and I don't watch YouTube videos on this because I still get jump scared on certain videos. But no, go ahead. Tell us about your game before I hide underneath my desk.
You don't need to hide under your desk because they're already under there.
Yeah, that's the good
Yeah.
one. Great, thanks.
So,
I'm ready for him. I'm ready
yeah,
for him.
Bye.
yeah. Okay, so I brought Five Nights at Freddy's. Yes, I know that's kind of a basic horror game to go for, but I kind of feel like the gameplay has really changed up how horror games could be in horror. So like you don't have this like big menacing threat like Jason or Freddy. You got like these kids that got killed and were stuffed in animatronics.
I prefer
Now they're
Jason.
coming for you. What? You prefer Jason?
I prefer Jason.
Anyways, so yeah, they got of course the storyline is more complicated than one of M. Night Shyamalan's scripts. But if you really get to play about you should if you really like are interested in the jump scary type of games, this game has really great jump scares. Like you can go on YouTube, see like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye do it, and it's just really cool how Scott Cawthon has really gotten this one indie game to new heights, even when his older games that were about Jesus Christ or something didn't work out.
Oh, okay. No, okay. What? Okay, exactly. Okay, talk me through as a new player. If I haven't played this game before, and anyone who hasn't actually stepped into this, what type of what should someone be expecting when they like step into this game? I heard some crackling in the background. I wasn't quite sure if that was a monster behind me or not. All right. Okay. No, go on then. What should someone expect in this game?
You should expect like so basically you're a night watchman in the pizzeria, and you're trying to keep the animatronics out from trying to kill you. You got a bunny, a rabbit.
Wait, does he
fox.
know that these animatronics are alive?
No, but
No. Okay, so it's just normal night watching. He's I'm just night watcher.
yeah, he's a normal regular Joe, and then these guys start moving, and things just go crazy. So yeah,
At that point, I'm out of there, mate. I'm out of there.
Yeah, I'm
I
grabbing the shotgun and just.
I ain't even grabbing the shotgun. I'm out. I'm out the building.
I just want to know exactly what do you need to do on Five Nights at Freddy or to like survive or win, or what is your role exactly? Yeah.
Basically, you keep the animatronics out of your office before 6 a.m. and try not to lose power, or else Freddy will get you, and then you would be dead.
I know there have been like 2,000 of this Five Nights at Freddy's game. How many have you played of them, and what's the deal? Like, how do they reinvent the formula, or are they the same game just repeated?
Well, yeah. For the first game, they did like the basic like opening and closing doors. In the second game, they added more animatronics and a new mechanic of having a Freddy head, so they don't stuff you into a costume. In the third game, they did like these power stuff where you have to like make sure you don't lose like oxygen or something, or else the hallucinations will get you.
Yeah, but do you think that these additions justify new games? Like, they just feel a bit kind of gimmicky,
Yeah.
It's kind of a double-edged sword type of deal. Like, sure, these things are really good, but it doesn't really like add much to the thing. But the story has been really good in the. Also, apparently, somebody's ride is ready. Like, I just heard a huge horn.
No.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, sorry. That's my blowhorn. There's.
Yeah, continue, please, with the Five Nights.
So yeah, I think it's I think it's pretty good. Like the games and the gimmicks and stuff. Like it just adds a little bit more interest to the games.
Do you think there's a way that they could expand this for like a whole more complete game? Because I know they've tried with the latest one, I believe, the one where you play like a little child, but didn't quite work. So do you believe there is more to it? Like, is there a way to expand the formula to a more 10-hour adventure of some sort?
Well, I heard they're gonna make a movie about it, so that hasn't
How
really
would
gone
that-
anywhere. Wait, what?
How would a movie work?
I don't really know. That's what really.
Chucky all over again.
Yeah.
And all of if a Five Nights
Oh my
Freddy movie
goodness.
happens, who here has the balls to go watch it? Well,
Oh,
for starters,
oh
I'll
my-
go, of course.
oh.
I'll come with you, Cami. So with you, I believe that. I
Seb,
can
what's
watch it.
wrong?
Sorry, you said Five Nights of Freddy's movie of what that could be like.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen it, yeah, I've watched a trailer this month about something I'm quite just like super scared about. It's literally an animatronic kind of character that's just there, just meant to be just normal character, and then suddenly she just starts killing people. I'm like, oh my goodness, that was. If they make a Friday Nights at Freddy's movie, if they make a
Friday Night at Freddy's.
Freddy.
Five Nights at Freddy's,
Yeah, that,
They make a movie.
The game Friday Night at Freddy's is when you help Freddy's out with his drunken vendor.
I think
Yeah,
kind of the
taxi.
scariest part about these video games where they're about like robots or a child or a teddy bear or something, that I think it's they don't look evil. I think that's the baseline. I think the nicer looking something looks, or something more toyish, more something like cute, the scarier it is. Like you've got scary, then you've got cute scary, which that just adds to the tension. Like for example, like if you see a cute little toy, cute little toy, and he starts stabbing people, that's just horror shock, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm out of that room straight away.
Yeah, good point.
And that's why I think Friday Nights at Freddy's just adds it's
Friday Night at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's. I hate this. This is
Yeah.
why I never.
And
why I never
the
played this
scariest
game on
part
YouTube.
in,
It would be the
Friday
worst.
Friday Night at Freddy's is
Play.
Freddy's alcoholism.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
The
Um,
fact that he doesn't like a kebab, even though it would do him loads of good to sober him up again.
Yeah, he doesn't like kebabs. He has a
That would
drinking
be-
problem. His wife left him.
So you imagine Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's the
Jay,
real
if you
horror.
were the night guard,
Yeah.
if you were the night guard,
Yeah.
it would be like this. You'd be like,
Just
I'm going to kill every. Would you like a kebab? I can imagine.
I just love the idea of you going, you know what, Freddy, I'm cutting you off, as he's trying to help himself to the
Freddy,
bar. At the
you have Freddy. This is a intervention. Your drinking problem has gone way too far.
Yeah, I
It's
can
hurting
imagine
everyone.
that you would take
Bonnie,
none of this,
Chica, and
any of
Foxy.
the games, like anything horror whatsoever, decided to come. Just like, I've got my gun with me and I'm going to shoot anything.
I mean, given how American security guards work,
Like, hold on.
no. Let me finish my point. Is surely, how is your character not armed? Like, everyone has a gun in a Chuck E. Cheese in America. You don't even have to be the security guard. You could just be a parent who shows up.
Yeah, but there's no more animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese. They have
Yeah,
that
but the-
giant like disco dance floor with the freaking like dancing and like mascots.
The biggest
Like,
problem with
they
your
need
logic,
to
Jay,
do-
the
they
biggest
need
problem with your logic, Jay, is that if the creator of the game would have, implemented this, he would have also given the animatronics the weapons, right? Because they can also buy them in America. So
No, that
you know,
wouldn't be
that-
fair.
that- it would be kind of an unfair fight, 4 against 1. So he had to make it a bit more unrealistic for that.
So,
to be a more scary
so in
game.
other words, instead of getting jump scared, you literally get sniped from out of nowhere from an animatronic.
You get sniped from Freddy's AK-47.
I guess we should have checked camera number 8.
Yeah. Hashtag Foxy is camping.
Moving on from the fact that inside my head right now I'm picturing Mickey Mouse destroy everyone.
Mickey Mouse having a
Mouse
drunken bender.
So let's move on from Nights
I wanna
Freddy
see-
at whatever. Let's move on from that one.
Okay. Moving on. I want to talk about my horror games. Yay! My
Don't
horror.
worry, Seb, we're more than happy to hear them.
I've got 2 horror games, and I've got them
Stopped
both
on
for 2
Freddy's
very different
problem.
reasons. And my first game is Alan Wake, and my second game is Phasmophobia, and they're both horror, but they're both horror for 2 different reasons, and these are the ones that really get me. Alan Wake, which is the first original one, the one I stepped into, there was it mirrored itself with super pleasant, happy life with dark, scary monsters. So you'd live the normal, happy life, and then dark, scary monsters would suddenly come out at nighttime, which was an interesting concept. It's like, because it gives you that positioning of, I want to stay in the happy zone. Can I just stay in the happy zone? Can we all just stay in the happy zone? That's what like one thing I'm like. There's a portion where you're on a boat, and everything looks really nice and it's really good, and you're like, okay, I don't want to get off the boat, and I don't want to progress the story because I quite like the boat. I like looking at the view. I'm really happy with this positioning. I don't want to move on with the rest of the game. I know what's going to happen, and I'm going to get spooked out of everywhere. And I think that's the one thing that I think games have the ability to do. As a character in a game, and unlike a movie, it has to keep progressing. If there's something scary in a video game and you know it's around that corner, then you don't have to go around there. You can hold back for a bit. You know that's the only way to progress, but there's no forceability to push someone around that corner. And I think that's what Alan Wake does very spectacularly. The fact that you see a forest, and you know the moment you walk into that forest, some shit's gonna happen. So it's like, I'm just gonna
southern drawl.
That's it. So you look at this forest and you're like, actually no, I'm gonna hold back just a tad, just to breathe in, because I know as soon as I go in there, everything's gonna go to hell. So I'm just gonna hold back for a minute, just hold back and chill. And I think that's what it does. It's not so much as scary as in like it goes boo. It's more of a scary as in like, I'm scared to walk forward, so I'm gonna stay here. That's the kind of like the horror with that game. Once you're in the forest, it's not that scary, but it's just getting in the first place. And I think that's kind of like what those type of things get in that edition.
So would you say that suspension is the biggest element of horror in Alan Wake?
Yeah, really strengthening that. Love that type of stuff. Yeah. Second, and I will add in this, is
before Seb, I want to ask you something before you continue.
Go for it.
You probably know about this, but if you didn't, you'll hear from me. But there's gonna be like a new Alan Wake game, a continuation from the last one. What do you expect from their next installment?
I really hope it's shorter. I really hope the game, like, okay, the problem with me with Alan Wake 1, just it's a story game about horror, and the more you experience horror in a story, the less thrilling it gets. I want more story content, but I want shorter, scary horror points. Like, I don't know how to put it, but like, I think the moment you start getting used to the scary horror people, the ghosts or whatever you like to call them, in these locations, this moment you start getting used to it is the moment that you start getting like, you know what, I'm not scared of this game anymore. It's not appealing to me. I'm moving off of it.
I get that, because I experienced that with Soma, where you start to, after a point, just kind of get annoyed that they're still there, rather than like being scared of them. So if they're kind of like fewer and further between, you kind of go, "Ooh, actually, this is exciting," rather than.
I also agree with the points. I mean, in my game, I said before that, it doesn't get too much scary at the end because you're already familiarized with the mechanics. So once you die once, twice, thrice, then it's not that big of a shocker once you die like the 10th time or the 11th time.
It's
or the
all
5,000
horror games have this ability to fall into this Call of Duty kind of gun mechanical kind of like action over horror.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get to that point,
yeah, so many horror games, like at the end, their pacing change, like stop focusing on the horror and put more emphasis on the action, and that's kind of bad, in my opinion.
I like this next game though, because this next game adds something that I really enjoy. So phasmophobia, which is my next.
It's Freddy Fazbear.
There's no story in it. It's all about, which is what I like the most. It's all about the walking into a room, and you've got all your ghost monsters out there, and you're like, okay, your job is to your job is to spot ghosts and to do these situations. So like someone's called you up, and you have to go around their location, and you have to find what ghost is over there, and you've got to narrow down what ghost it is. And if you haven't, if you've seen like The Conjuring, which is a great movie, you've got these two guys that come in and they just monitor the ghost, and if there's any ghost activity before Ellen in the movie walks in, who's the ghost expert and tells you how to get rid of the ghost. You're like these two guys, that you have the knowledge of being able to detect if there's a ghost in the house and what type of ghost it is, probably to deliver to whoever the actual ghost get rid of a person is. You're the middle person, which is great, because that's, your job is just to find, detect, and know what ghost it is, and that's pretty much the game. And the best part about it is the noise, the atmosphere, the sound, and the locations. You go into like abandoned schools, and you have to search the whole school, and you find the location on your marker, and you're like, okay, you're starting to read and starting to pick certain information up, and then at some point, Ghost does make as soon as it all goes to pot, makes an appearance, boom, 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 all goes crazy. And I think that is my likability of that game. Phasmophobia is possibly one of my favorite games for that reason, because it's all based on like scary horror stuff. Yeah, pretty much. I hate walking into the building because like the door's shut once you're inside. The ghost tries to actually kill you and attack you. But it's all about atmosphere. I think that's the one thing that horrors have over every other type of game, is the atmosphere inside their games. If you get like the noise changing once you're in a horror section, and something's gonna happen, but you don't quite know what, when, or how, that's the suspense. That's what brings it around. And if it's new places and new locations and new ways to progress, for me, that's just the addition. So yeah.
In which locations is the game set again?
There's different. There's not actually. It's not story, so you pick different levels. So you've got like an abandoned school, an abandoned asylum, abandoned houses, abandoned farm areas. So yeah, and you kind of go across that whole thing.
Oh, that one's
is there a location that you like the most? A level that you like the most?
Sure.
Is there a level I like the most? I think it's the first location, the place you start at, the very first the very first location, the very first place you step into. That kind of place, I like it because you just
what is it?
You don't have to go searching up, down, left, right, forwards, back, around every single staircase just to find the ghost. You've got this nice small area. It's a great starting location. It gets you built into the game, and I think that's what is really appealing. If you get a location that you go to that's
but what's the location? Is it? Sorry.
Oh, it's just a single bungalow house.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a single bungalow house. It's the first floor. It's the very start, a very beginner location. It's fun. It's good. It's exactly what a place needs the moment you first start on it, and it's something you can always go back to. You can introduce new people to, and all the time I'll just be like, shock, horror, shock. There's a few other houses that are like multiple stairs that I do like as well, but yeah, that's kind of like my locations, and each one of them is specifically set as like in a dark, abandoned location, and you can kind of see that it feels very creepy. There's even stuff inside the locations, like maybe in you see some bones on the floor, and you're like, yeah, something's going on here. That's the addition. I don't want to give too much away. I just want people to get on that game and have a go at it if they haven't done.
Isn't that the one that's multiplayer as well?
Yes, I think that's a great addition as well. It's multiplayer. There's 4 people inside the thing. There's also you get to have you and 4 different other people, and you can all talk on the radio with each other, which is how it's kind of like meant to be played. So if you're there and you've got 3 other people and you're on the walkie-talkies, then you kind of hear this like walkie-talkie sound effect with you and your mates. But when the ghost does paranormal activity, they cut out. So you're like, wait, where is everyone? Like, you also got voice chat, so you can talk to people that are close by. But if you make too much noise, the ghost does hear you, which is also one of the creepy things. So you can talk to your mates, but the ghost can hear you.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
You're selling it.
That's a really cool. Yeah, I kind of want to go play this.
The only annoying part of this one game is it's on PC. So I don't know about like Xbox versions and all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, I'm not too sure. I don't think it's not on Xbox and it's not on PlayStation. So it's like it's really good as a game, and it should definitely have more like backing on it. But it is just generally it's zoned down to PC only at the moment, which is why I think it's just not heard of as much. But honestly, it's a good game to get into, and it's just like it just jump scares everywhere.
So is this a game that you're going to suggest we all get, and then we play as a podcast group?
Would it like at Christmas time? The Christmas is us playing
Christmas
a video game.
Is a bold choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Christmas themed.
To go for fear at Christmas time sounds like a laugh.
Yeah. Anyway, that I'm going to call it for today's podcast. We've got quite on, and I'm going to have to bring it to an end because we're overshooting the time. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy watching, please don't forget to check out everybody in this podcast. You can see all their links down below. You've got Alwood, Blue Fox, Jay, and Kamazoid for joining me in this podcast. Thanks so much for being in here, and I will see you guys on the next.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening as well.